Hello and welcome to the first stage 4 musicianship video. So you might be getting this before you've done your first session, you might be getting it after you've done your first session. It's absolutely fine to give it a sneaky peek before the session because we're practicing skills. So the more times you do these things, you can do this as many times as you like and you'll find something new in it every time you do it. So we're going to do our welcome song. Now, if you're playing a recorder, you're just going to have to use your singing voice because singing and playing at the same time doesn't really work for a woodwind. But if you're a string player, we're going to keep the beat. So woodwind players, you can just tap along, okay, on your knees. And string players, we're going to find a beat on our D string. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go right to the heel of the bow. Now cellists, when you do your nice bow hold, your fingers are going to flop over and your little finger flops over and you go to the heel of the bow here, okay? And you can do a lovely D string stroke. For violins, we're going to go right to the heel of the bow and take your little finger off and then put it back on and take the bow weight up. Okay, so we should all be set. Let's just get our tars going. So ta, 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 ta. Welcome everybody. It's time for us to sing. Welcome everybody. It's time for us to sing. 10 bounces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's time for us to sing. Well done. Now, woodwind players, you can have a go at just playing along on an A or a D to that, rather than doing the singing along. So you have a choice in that one. Right, so we've done our welcome song. Then we're going to do a bit of a coordination exercise and get our brains going. So, we've done our pulse and we're going to do, our coordination exercise. So we did this last year, but it's good to remind yourself this rhyme is in the first double page spread of the bronze book that you had last year, and we're going to just keep using lots of the games from that to keep them sort of fresh in our minds. So it goes, I'm going to do a line, then you do a line. So it goes, Coca-Cola went to town. Pepsi-Cola shot him down. Dr. Pepper fixed him up. Changed him into 7-Up. Now you'll notice there was a switch in the pattern just at the end. I always forget to do it. Hopefully it didn't catch you guys out. So Dr. Pepper, the red's going to be our fizzy drink, went to town. Pepsi Cola shot him down. Dr. Pepper fixed him up, changed him into 7-Up. So the pattern changes just at the end. Let's try that once more together. So we're going to clap on the fizzy drinks and pat our knees on the other words. So Coca-Cola, off we go. Coca-Cola went to town. Pepsi-Cola shot him down. Dr. Pepper fixed him up, changed him into 7-Up. So if you're struggling with that, you can whiz back on the video and try it a few times. If not, let's get our instruments. So we're going to still be playing the beat. So we're not playing the rhythm. We're not going to have doing that yet today, okay? So we're actually going to play the blobs that we can see. Let me just swap that over. So we're going to do, for the red blobs, we're going to do a D, and for the blue blobs, we're going to do an A. Now strings, this is your open strings, and recorders, A D is all your fingers down, and an A is 2 fingers down. Now, if you can't do a D yet, you could play a B for these red ones. Okay, so you would have B and A. Okay, so ready, steady, off we go. Dr. Pepper Coca-Cola went to town. Pepsi Cola shot him down. Dr. Pepper fixed him up, changed him into 7-Up. Very good. Okay. Try doing it whilst you're talking if you're a string player, because that's an extra level of making it quite tricky. Now we're going to do a bit of harmony work with that coordination game another week, but just get the basics at the moment. So in this year of learning, we're going to start putting some of the words that we've been learning so far, like ta, ti, tu, and for, or. It works while we're trying to use our bodies and we're trying to sing, but a lot of musicians use different language for the notation that we're doing, and it's a sort of more formal language, and we need to know both. So the tars and the titis are useful when we're doing our games and we're talking to each other and want to put it together, but when we're actually talking about music and the music that's on the page, there's a whole world of language that you guys need to know about, and that's what this year's sort of musicianship training is about, introducing you to a lot of that understanding. So you're going to have a new book, I'm not sure I've got it just here, and it's called Music Theory. Okay, so music theory is what we're going to be learning, and you're going to have a Piano Stars book. Don't worry if you don't play the piano, but we are going to be doing some of the work on a piano, because again you need to understand a little bit. So enough talking back. We did theory. We're going to do, if you haven't had your lesson yet, we're going to do a rhythm tree. So we've done this before. We had for, or, to, woo, ta, 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 ti, 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 ti. Okay? Now, the reason I like those words is because it helps with the clapping, okay? But they, as I say, they've got other words. So let's just clap a for, or. It goes for, or. Now the grown-up word I'm going to put over this side is called a semi-breve. Okay, can you say that with me? Off we go. Semi-breve. Now a semi-breve lasts for 4 beats, which is why I call it a for, or. And in America, they have a different system. They call this one a whole note. Okay, now let's move down a thing. The next layer down we have two woos. As the name suggests, they last for 2 beats each. Now in the grown-up sort of serious world of music, they are called a min-nim. Min-nim, so we can clap that and it goes min-nim, min-nim. Using the logic, a minim or a 2-woo is half of a semi-breve. So in the American system, it's called a half note. Okay, if you can see that. Here we've got ta, 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 ta. Now a ta lasts for 1 beat. And in sort of the traditional music world, it's called a crotchet. Okay, and so let's have a go at doing that. The hard thing is crotchet has 2 syllables and we're only supposed to do 1 clap. That's why we use ta instead. It gets less confusing. So it goes ta, 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 ta. Crotchet, 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 crotchet. And if we're using the American system, we call that a quarter note. And then last we're going to do today is these things here, which we call T, 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 T. And each little T is half of a tar, so it's a half beat note. And in the sort of grown-up musical world, those are called quavers. Okay, so we could do T, 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 quaver, 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 quaver. Where each one is a quaver, so it would be quaver, 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 quaver. Anyway, you get the point. That these names, whilst we need to know them, they're not very good for when we're trying to clap and say at the same time. And in America, this whole note is divided up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we call these the eighth notes. Now the reason that these American versions, the whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, is useful for us is that they're going to help us with, for string players, they're going to help us with how much of our bow we're going to use to play that. And for the recorders, you're going to need to know the beats that you're going to have to play. Now recorders, you can take a breath whenever you need to, and then perhaps you can do this with Eliza in your lessons, and you can ask her where a good place to breathe. I'd like you to tongue for each of the heads of the notes. So, and for string players, we're going to go. So the first time, we're going to use the American words for the first time through. So, just to show you first, we're going to do whole note, 1, 2, 3, whole bow, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and you end up at the tip of the bow, and then we do it all backwards, and this time we're going to use the grown-up words, so semi, breathe, minim, minim, and then we have to do tars right at the heel of the bow, using about a quarter of the bow, tar, 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 ting, 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 and see if you can balance the bow right at the heel, so the weight should all be on that little finger. Okay, so recorders, remember you can breathe where you need to, but remember to tongue for every head of the note. Okay, so just on a D or an A, let's have a go at playing our rhythm tree. Ready, steady, off we go. Whole note, half note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, eighth 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 note, 1, say, breathe, minim, minim, crotchet, 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 quaver, 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 quaver. Okay, so you can go back and have another go at that one. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to carry on playing a D, but I'd like you to play a different note over the top so that we can get a nice sort of harmony going with what we're doing. So you could choose notes from, we're going to call it a D major arpeggio. Now that's a lot of information all in one go, but actually all it means is that you're going to choose one of 3 notes. You can play a D with me, which means you won't get harmony when you're doing it at home. Harmony is when you have 2 notes together making a beautiful sound. So this is just on its own, and then this is harmony. So that's a D and an F sharp. So you could choose to play it on an F sharp, or you could choose to play it on an A. The top note is an A. Okay. So if you want to just choose one of those notes all the way through, like we just did with the D, then you can. Or you can choose to play a D on the whole note, an F sharp on this one, an A on this one, and then a top D. Actually, let me do that in a different colour. I'll write it down the middle And I think we should, if you don't know all of those notes, I'm going to be doing that. So if you stay on an open D, it will create harmony with what I'm doing. So D, F sharp, A, and top D, okay? And then we're going to, let's see if we can just do that together. Okay, are we ready? So starting on bottom D for our semi-breathe. Okay, you ready? Off we go. Semi-breathe, F sharp, A, crotchet, 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 quaver, 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 quaver. How did you do? All right. This time, let's see if we can go backwards. So we're going to start, string players, you're going to start at the tip of the bow. Woodwind players, you're going to take a nice deep breath, and we're starting on top D this time for our long note. And then we're going to have A for our minims, or our two woos, or our half notes. And then F sharp for our crotchets or our tars, and D, bottom D, for our quavers. Okay, so this time we're going to start at the tip of the bow, a little bit slower. This time we're going to use the American words. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've played a rhythm tree. We might not be able to say the notes while you're playing if you're playing a recorder, but I want you to practice clapping and saying a rhythm tree using the semi-breathe notes. So it's semi-breathe, minim, crotchet and quaver, because the more you say them, the more you remember them. Then try the American system, so whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note. Then have a go at putting it onto your instrument, playing it either just on one note or doing it in an arpeggio. So you have a D, an F sharp, an A and a top D. And we're going to put that back together again when we do our next musicianship lesson. So have a go at adding that into your practice, and we'll see how it sounds. All right, take care. See you later.